Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to our last stop of the road trip, Sydney, for 2013. So I want to welcome all of you, and I also want to thank some of the people that have come back, because actually in Sydney and Melbourne we had a road trip in 2011. So I noticed some people from that road trip came as well. So I just have a few things, sort of housekeeping, so you guys know what the agenda is and where we're headed. First, if you haven't filled out a survey, product management actually does read everything that you write down, and we take it seriously. It would be wonderful to get some feedback on the products and how you feel about them through our survey. And then we're going to give away a $50 gift certificate, a swag gift certificate, at random drawing at the end of the presentation during the Q&A session. So if you haven't filled it out, please do that. Another thing is if you want to say what your dream plugin might be for Jira, Confluence, any of the development tools, if you could tweet your dream plugin with the hashtag Atlassian Roadtrip, you can also win some Atlassian swag doing that. And tonight, we would love if you could take a picture of yourself with the Charlie. And if you don't know what Charlie is, it's the big inflatable blue thing behind you with his hands up. So if you could tweet your picture with the hashtag Atlassian Roadtrip, again, you can win some awesome Atlassian prizes that we are fashionably showing you right now. And then finally, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of the talk, so you can ask some questions to several of the Atlassian product managers and our VP of Engineering and me. And please feel free to hang around. We're going to dock back at around 8:30, but have drinks. There's food as well. And if you're still hungry for some more Atlassian interaction, afterwards we're going to be at a bar. So the bar there's instructions to get there, and it's called Hudson. It's a new bar. It's only been open for 3 weeks on Lime Street, and we have instructions. So we'll get off the boat around 8:50 and to 9 o'clock and can continue the party over there. So enjoy, and I just want to introduce Jean-Michel Lemieux. He's our VP of Engineering. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks Audra. So I hear that we started the evening off pretty well in a bit of an Atlassian style. So I hear we had a treasure hunt tonight. Is that it? So we gave 3 sets of instructions to different people, and Lime Street, the pontoon bar, and the pontoon boat. So it looks like only a third of you were paying attention. So anyway. So we're running about 20 minutes late. So again, welcome. My name's Jean-Michel Lemieux, and I have the pleasure of being the VP of Engineering at Atlassian. And the reason for the road trip this year is we really wanted to get around and get out of the mothership and come and listen to folks. But on the flip side, the other thing we wanted to do is 2 other things. One is we have a lot of users around the world, and we want you guys to get to know each other and learn off each other. One of the things that even just mingling tonight, where we actually had I think his name was Greg, was telling me how he was just adopting Confluence. He was trying to figure out how he can use it with third parties. He has a bunch of customers he wants to use it with, and how does he set up permissioning? Does he use LDAP groups to do that? And it turns out, it turns around, there's someone behind him who's been doing it for a couple of years. So that kind of interaction is what we really want to do. So I'm going to try and keep this to 40 minutes so you guys can keep learning off each other. But the other thing as well is we hear a lot from customers saying, hey, can you guys tell us a bit about how you guys build products? You guys have been doing it for 10 years. We see snippets here and there. We'd love to hear a bit more. So that's kind of what how we've kind of planned the next 40 minutes, is to give you a bit of a deep dive into how we actually pull one of the products out, how it actually, a bit of the sausage factor, I'd say, of how we actually get a product out. Before I deep dive into how we get a product out, I just want to give you an overview, because it's been a really fun year at Atlassian in terms of what's going on. So before we dive in again, Atlassian's role is really to help teams collaborate. We're a software company, realizing that every company out there is becoming a software company. Tonight, talking to people here who have digital agencies, who have construction companies, software is still running the world, and we're really excited to be part of that. So we're excited that all these logos are up here, that we're powering these teams around the world. The other thing is software and product development is a bit of a contact sport. There's a lot of people involved, there's a lot of coordination, and it's insanely collaborative. And as a result of this collaboration, we're really keen to make sure that we realize that it's not just collaboration between one set of users on your team. It's really for everyone. So what we've really been focusing on this year is realizing that because it's a full contact sport, there's a bunch of different tools and different techniques you need to use to be successful. On the first side of our product portfolio, okay, we're about to leave. Everybody have your seatbelts on? Okay, good. So as part of that full contact sport, there's different things that teams do. Teams need different kind of help as they're going along. We have our Confluence family, and we really think of Confluence as the lowest barrier of communication on your team. So that's where you can throw your ideas in quickly. You don't have to overthink them, and it's really about powering communication as quickly as you can. So you lower the bar, so you don't have to think about things. Do I have to organize my thoughts into sprints? Do I have to organize them and assign to someone? It's just get your ideas out and accelerate the communication on your team, okay? Jira is about, okay, I'm a bit more structured right now. I've got some workflow. I've got to get my acting gear and ship on a particular date, and that's where Jira comes into play. And that's the strength of Jira, strength of Greenhopper and Bonfire. And then there's a lot of people on our teams, especially on my team at Atlassian, who are actually writing code, and that's where we're really focused. That's where the code comes in, and we've got a whole product line like Stash for DVCS. We've got Bitbucket, Fisheye and Crucible, and Bonfire, which is really about the coding phase. So we're fairly paranoid at Atlassian and realize that because it's a full contact sport, we really need the suite of tools. One of the reasons why we do have, we have different families of tools is we do appreciate that teams grow up over their lifetime. They start at 10, they grow up to 50, to 100, to 1,000, and sometimes you're going to start with wherever your biggest pain point is. And for your team, maybe the biggest pain point is I need some help with my source control, and that's fine for us. You can start with your source control if you want. Now, the other thing as well that we've worked really hard on in the last 2 years is you can use our products in both the cloud and on-premise. And that's a bit better. Wow. Hopefully we can glide under the bridge from here. I'm just curious with a show of hands, how many people here are actually using our hosted offering of our products? Wow, awesome. About half. Excellent. That's what we hoped. But we have kind of a fairly big advantage in that we can actually, we encourage teams to kind of use our tools in hosted, and you can actually bring them behind a firewall as your team grows or you have different requirements. Or the flip side is you can start behind a firewall, as in under your desk, and then as you grow up and you want to power your whole company, you can move that to a hosted offering as well. And that level of flexibility is something we actually spend a lot of engineering time on, but it's a flexibility I think is pretty unique out there and something we want to keep doing. The other thing we've worked really hard on this year is the marketplace. So if you haven't seen the marketplace, check it out. It's where we're only so smart. We have actually the whole world of developers out there who are as smart or smarter than the folks we have at Atlassian. And these guys have been building integrations and products on top of our stack. We're really proud this year. It's been a year that the marketplace has had a commercial aspect to it, which means we're powering other companies out there who are building on Atlassian, companies who have been able to get some revenues. So they're still using our business model, which is they're very affordable, very cheap, and high quality, and they'll be able to get their revenues directly from our customers, using time tracking, using Gantt charting, and using all these things where we're not experts in them, but we have an awesome ecosystem being paid and have a vested interest in actually making their products a lot better for you guys to use. So if you haven't checked it out, please check it out. We have a fairly big addition to the ecosystem this year. It's called Blueprints. And Blueprints is a new function in terms of Confluence that makes creating Confluence content a lot easier, and people are going to be able to post blueprints to the marketplace to extend them in crazy ways. I'll talk about that a bit later. The other thing we've been up to, we acquired a company called HipChat, might have been a year ago, and we've been doing a crazy amount of work with HipChat. Some of the highlights has been we've been redoing all the client applications. So the iPhone app, the Android app, the Mac OS client has been completely redone from scratch. Internally at Atlassian, what was interesting is that there's been no mandate to say, hey guys, we're moving to HipChat. We had a fairly strong, XMPP, Jabber, Pigeon kind of following of instant messaging, and our CEOs are not the type of guys who are going to force us to use something. It has to be popular enough, and HipChat's just taken over with a couple of key features that people get addicted to. It's team-based, so again, it's not about the individual, it's about the team. So teams have rooms, so all of a sudden you bring people together. You can see from the screenshot it's with you wherever you're at, so it's on your phone, it's on your iPad, it's in your meeting, so people stay connected a lot easier. It's very rich, so you post screenshots into it very easily. And the other thing we love is, I'll show this a bit later. Actually, this screenshot has it at the top, is we pump a lot of other information into HipChat. So from Jira issues being closed, we have a kudos system internally, which is where we recognize people in the company. And in our management HipChat room, we actually pump all the kudoses so we can kind of see who's rewarding people. So kind of, again, all the things we're doing with our tools are just accelerating communication, and we're really excited how the real-time aspect can really complement some of the stuff we're doing in Jira and Confluence. SourceTree is a company we acquired probably about 18 months ago, and this is a Git client. We're really excited about SourceTree. The first thing we did after we acquired it is we made it free, and this year we released the Windows version. So we've brought Git and DVCS, which we'll talk about a bit later, to the Mac and to Windows, and it is the most powerful and featureful Git client out there. So we've got, I think, over 100,000 users of SourceTree. Really excited about that. And if you haven't noticed, how many people have actually upgraded to Confluence 5 already? Awesome. That's awesome. So you've seen this before. Confluence 5 has been a huge redesign. I'll show you some screenshots a bit later. You're actually going to hear from some of our designers to talk about the whole process we went through to actually redesign Confluence, but not only from the pixel perspective, but also from the workflow. So you'll see the introduction of what we call blueprints. You see at the top of the screenshot, there's what we call the call to action buttons about creation, and creation of content is king right now, and we've really done a lot of work to make that awesome. And finally, last but not least, is a whole new redesign around speed and simplicity for Jira. So we've been busy. And I'll just let you know, I think I might actually mention this during the presentation, but we call this Kickass. So internally in Atlassian, this project is called Kickass, and you can see why. So if I say Kickass, I'm referring to Jira, and I'm referring to the project of Jira 6. So just to give you a bit of caveat, this is the last stop on our road trip, and the marketing team actually did an awesome job putting this slide deck together, but they didn't talk to me personally that much. So what they've done is they actually did a bit of a reality TV show where they went into our product teams and looked at how we're working and kind of documented all that and put that into kind of a slide deck. And what I told Jay, who's our president, who helped put the slide deck together, is said, when I give this in Sydney, I'm going to give a bit more of a reality check. So there's a bit of a marketing slant to it, and that when I read the slides, I was like, well, it's not that rosy all the time. So I'll actually add a bit of commentary about where it's not all that rosy. But what we wanted to give you is that flyby about actually all those features and products I talked to you about. Let's look at the sausage factory about how we actually put those together. So the first thing is we're going to focus on the Jira team, and the Jira team is the team behind Kickass, and a team of individuals that have come together, I guess, over the last year to redesign, which is a fairly huge project, a large amount of Jira. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the roles, I want to know if anybody here, any developers can guess how many lines of code do you think there are in Jira? Okay, we have 6 million. Any other bets? What was that? 1 million? 3.8 million lines of code in Jira. So there's quite a bit of code saving an issue and transitioning it to resolved. You know, if you've added a post function, there's a bit more involved in that. And in Jira, the other thing we've been doing besides actually, you know, trying to not add too many more lines of code to Jira is shipping a lot more features. We actually have a team that has been deleting tests. Don't get surprised by that, but one of the good things you do when you have 3.8 million lines of code is you have to be continually doing some gardening of that code. So we've had some teams looking at testing, etc., and just starting to make sure that code that doesn't go up too much. So some of the awesome features this year, Jira 5.0 was about putting a good REST API boundary. So Jira 5.0 for us was really enabling the marketplace. A lot of add-ons, the fact that people can upgrade Jira a lot more easily right now is all because of Jira 5.0. So maybe not as sexy from the feature perspective, but for us it's really an awesome platform play to make sure that it's here to stay. So both an awesome stable platform for our ecosystem and also a lot easier for people to upgrade as we've been going forward. If you've been a Greenhopper fan, you've seen Greenhopper evolve in front of your eyes. You've seen the Classic boards. You know, learn a lot from what we can do with the Classic boards, and I think the new Rapid boards have really come to age, and that's been really exciting. And then Greenhopper 6.1 that I believe it has versioning support as well, which everybody's been asking for. I think it's been the last feature before we can declare the classic boards being officially classified. And Jira 6.0, which I'm going to talk about. So how many people does it take to build a sausage? There's 74 people on the Jira team. And let's do a quick poll again. So how many QA do you think there are on Jira?
3.
Oh, that was close. So it was 3 and 10. It's actually 4. That was pretty good. Did you think we need more?
Yeah.
That was a trick question. So listen, there's what I want to go into is why do we have this team structure? There's actually some rhyme to reason about this. We've evolved this team structure over time, but you'll notice we do have quite a heavy development team on this. A lot of people writing code and testing, and I guess this presentation to explain a bit about why these numbers are like this. Product manager, not project manager. Product manager. We actually have one project manager. If she was here, she'd be upset that she's not on the slides. But there's actually real people behind these roles, and that's what I wanted to explain. And these people are all here really making sure that we keep our speed up and making sure that we scale. Remember, at Atlassian, we've been adding a lot of people to Atlassian, and we want to make sure that you guys don't feel the pain of us adding people and trying to do more with our products. So a lot of the work we do is really making sure we can keep that speed cadence and making sure that we scale to do that, as we keep the quality bar up and we keep the features and keep delighting you. So product management has a really critical role at Atlassian. They're shepherds of the overall product direction. They're shepherds of bringing all the customers into the office again. And that's one of the big themes, is they bring the customers into the office to make sure that everybody's reminded that we're actually building this not just for us, but for the 25,000 customers we have around the world. And they're there to set the roadmaps for the products. So Brian, who's actually here somewhere, Brian, did you put your hand up? No? Oh, he's not here. Oh, he bailed on us. All the others are here. But so Brian, Brian's job is to take Jira, looks like that, and to turn it into something like that in a reasonable amount of time. And one of the things that you have to do to actually turn Jira and make that transformation is product management job is about communication. So product managers, the more effectively they can get their vision across, they can bring customers in, and they can get those 74 people on the team to understand what has to get built, the better the product's going to be. So that's why Confluence shows up as one of the key tools for product management. And the reason it comes up is there's a set of tools and documents in Confluence that really help the product managers spread the word and spread the vision about what has to be built. So product management is going to be, we'll talk about personas, roadmaps, requirements, project status. All that's going to show up in Confluence. Again, with their role of making sure that everybody's aware of what's being built and why. So let's talk about personas for a bit. Personas are what helps bring, I guess, you guys into our office. And we've been using personas a lot now for probably the last 9 months. And what we do to generate our personas is we actually go on the road like this, and we've been interviewing a lot of customers, and we try and extract a couple of key personas. We name them, we give pictures that help us kind of guide our features. So I can introduce you to Alana the Aware. So Alana is a newbie on a team, someone who's really keen, is new on a team, and again, we go into a lot of detail what their criteria are, what kind of languages they like, what they're afraid of. And then there's Will, or William the Wise, and he's that hardcore developer on your team who doesn't want any tools, doesn't want to be bugged, and knows everything. So we've been using these personas to guide a lot of the work we do. One of the great things we do with personas is we ask people, what animal do you associate with Atlassian? And we've had 2 awesome answers that just stick in my head all the time. So the first one is a platypus. Anyway, is that you? People are nodding, yeah? So platypus, and the reason for naming Atlassian a platypus is they say, from the outside, it looks like things shouldn't fit together, but it works. Is that ring a bell? Yeah. And the other one is elephant. Anybody guess why it's an elephant? Is it? It looks a lot nicer from the front than from the back. So some of these subtle questions we ask customers, definitely, if you read between the lines, you can get the gist of what they're trying to tell you. So personas have been awesome. Here's Emma the Eager. Again, although we're a 10-year-old company, I think this is something you probably have to do on your own teams, is realize that there's a lot of new people using your products all the time. And are you putting yourself in their shoes enough? Have you reminded yourself what it's like to install and try out a feature for the first time? And Emma's driving us to make sure we always remember what it's like being new on teams. We've built out a whole list of scorecards, kind of understanding what they love, what they hate, what kind of language it is, where do they spend their day, etc. Like Muhammad Ali said quite a while ago, he said, you've got to hit them where it hurts. So one of the things that happens is developers need to be punched a bit to absorb what customers mean. So we littered our office with personas. And I see Emma, 3 times a day? And I know what she's about now. So it's very much percolated kind of around the company. So personas have been awesome. And of course, we've got people in the company who've noticed that personas are being forced on them or being talked a lot about, and we've got some new interesting personas coming out, so it's great. So personas are important, but also kind of understanding the whole story of what we're trying to build in the product. So remember, we're talking about product managers, bringing the customers in, using personas as a tool to bring customers in and spread that, using Confluence as a tool to communicate quickly and effectively. And I'm going to introduce you to a short video clip of Brian, who's going to talk about how he uses stories and themes to kind of guide the product teams.
You have all these different sources of feedback as a product manager. You have thousands of different feature requests, and you have thousands of different customers. How do you pick what to build? Essentially, we don't want to just pick piecemeal features and build a laundry list of features into a release. We typically pick a theme or a direction that we think is the most important thing to do for the product at a particular time. We may realize that some of our customers are really challenged in a particular direction, that they have a goal, a direction that they're moving towards, and we see this across the industry. So what we typically try to do is pick a set of related features that we think help customers achieve that goal.
So we start with the story. So this is where I'm going to diverge a bit. I'll tell you a bit of what actually happens behind the scenes. Our designers tell us you have to pick one persona per story. Like, it's really hard to satisfy every persona. We have a hard time doing that. And the problem with some of the products when they've been out for a while is we have a lot of existing customers and we have a lot of new customers. And internally, that debate happens a lot. I think it's a healthy debate because at the end of the day, it makes our stories better. And sometimes you end up with a story is, okay, this is a story for Emma and this is a story for Will. And it forces us to have that conversation, but it's not an easy one, especially when you have a product that's been out for a while. What do we do with our stories? This might look a bit waterfall-y. It isn't. It's about laying out the themes of the release. We do investment planning. We've got to do budgeting, investing, and deciding where we're going to put people. But we put this in Confluence, and it's very lightweight. We don't do Gantt charting. It's more about thinking about what kind of key stories we want to work on. It's very lightweight. The other thing we do in Confluence a lot is again, this communication. So value propositions are in there. And the awesome thing is when you put all of this content in Confluence is the social aspects come out. And remember, the speed of development is going to be completely related to the speed of communication, and that communication is not one way. It's not Brian telling people what the themes are. It's Brian telling us what he's heard from the customers and gathering feedback and then iterating quickly. And the way we iterate is the power of social, which is the power of having people on your team interact. So this is an example of kind of a spec that Brian posts and said, hey, let's do something for Emma. One day later, we've got 34 comments. A week later, we've got 62 thumbs up and 103 comments. And Brian's job here is, it might seem a bit overwhelming, as in, well, everybody's been commenting what's going on, but there's nuggets of really awesome things in here. But the most important thing is he's getting buy-in. Those thumbs up are 62 people saying, I want to join your team and work on that. That's really exciting. And I think that power of being transparent in communication is really powerful. The other thing we've done as well, which might be a bit controversial, is we pulled Jira information into Confluence. And you could argue, well, keep it all in Jira and give someone a link to the Rapid board, but we really find that there's a lot of stakeholders in the company, marketing, sales, they want to know what's going on, they're really interested in it, so we pull this out. We have a bunch of features in Confluence like the Jira macros, or the Jira issue macro, etc., that we're actually improving if you've been using it, but we've been working on it quite a bit. But that's so we can actually create some of these pages, status lozenges, etc. So don't be upset when you use multiple tools for different stakeholders. We do it ourselves. And again, meeting notes. We just put a lot of meeting notes in there, just all the time. So out of all these, the content in Confluence, I just want a bit of an advertisement for one of the new features in Confluence that has really been driven by our own use of Confluence. The Confluence team actually built this out by watching a lot of what the Jira team's been doing, other teams around the world, and it's what we call blueprints. And blueprints start with that creation phase. So you want to create something in Confluence, and you're like, hey, I saw Brian's page about the meeting notes. I have no idea how much time he spent trying to decide how to put that together. Or I saw Brian's page on a product spec. How can I do that really quickly? So starting with creation, you can pick one of the templates, or what we call blueprints, that you want to create that have been pre-created. And it's as easy as picking them, and everything's set up for you in advance. So this is, again, so it's making it easier for you to create content, knowing how powerful it is for making sure your team's kind of in sync with what's going on. So that's what Brian does in his day job. So thanks to Brian and the Jira team, we've got a kick-ass Jira coming out. Now, Brian isn't alone on his team. I think Brian would be, if he was here, he'd be humbling, pointing to the 74 people. And one of the people on his team that he's been relying a lot is a dude called Ross. And Ross is our Jira design lead, and he's the guy who's got to take Jira 3.13 and turn it into something a lot better. And how do you do that? So what kind of design process do we use at Atlassian? Just to give you a bit of, again, sausage factory information, about 3 years ago, we had 4 designers at Atlassian, and I think we have 17 now. So we've definitely grown our design team, which means that we have to understand, how does that change how we build things? Does who decides how things work? And one of the typical kind of workflows you do when you're designing products is you decide the feature, you decide kind of how people are going to use that feature. You spend a lot of time looking at how's it going to look and feel. And one of the areas we wasted a lot of time was on that top part there, is iterating and thrashing on what's that button going to look like, how do we format things. And one of the first things that the design team did when we really onboarded them and boosted up the team and said, listen, design team can only do so much. The first thing we need is we've got to speed up this whole look and visual appearance side if we want to get any progress done. And we want to take that out of the loop and basically empower everybody in the company to be able to actually make something pretty, make something that looks good, and make something that has some basic visual interaction guidelines to it without having to think too much. So we built out what we call the Atlassian Design Guidelines as a result of that. And this was not a designer tool. This was a tool for the whole company. This was a tool to make the developers quick, to make the product management quicker, and then ultimately to be able to turn Jira 3.13 into Jira 6 without it taking 3 years to do so. So let's hear a bit from Ross about what it was like building out the design guidelines.
ADG is the Atlassian Design Guidelines. It's a common set of components that we have across the company. It saves us having to design everything from the ground up. We can concentrate on the actual core experiences and the flows across the product rather than thinking about how we design individual components, buttons, colors, things like that. When we started out designing the ADG, we knew we needed designers from across the various products in the company. So we pulled designers from all of the major products and locked them in a room for 3 weeks, a war room similar to this one. So we looked at the core experiences across each of our products and tried to solve them using the same paradigms and the same approaches. So the big value in the ADG is that the design team is bought into it and the company is bought into it. So we can use those patterns across every part of the company. The big value in the ADG is that it's a contract between the visual design and the product teams. It means that both can iterate completely independently of each other.
So remember that we have a marketplace, and the design guidelines were actually both for, as Ross said, that contract between all the roles on the team, but it's also to help our ecosystem. So if you're building an add-on or a plugin, we want them to actually participate. So the design guidelines are a live document that we actually have internally. It's actually a website where everything in it is live. So when we add an item to the design guidelines, so we add a new checkbox item, it's actually part of the design guidelines website. So it's almost like a mini app that shows the design guides that are live. That was kind of a really big value for us. We thought it was really important that the design guidelines were not a 100-page document that gets out of date, that I can't go and inspect the code and see how to build it. So we've been really picky about making sure that the design is as close to code as possible, so that it's not a static document. So we spent a lot of time putting that together. What's in the design guide? We have colors, typography, icons, etc. All the stuff you kind of assume. One of the big items in the design guidelines is about navigation and headers. So this what kind of crosses into the UX boundary of user experience. So we have common things like call out actions that should be common across all the products. Navigation, how do we switch between apps? That's actually part of the design guidelines as well, and that's helped shape. You've probably noticed by now, but a lot of common theming and navigation across all the products. Two awesome things in the design guideline is AUI, which is our actual coding framework that helps you implement the design guidelines really quickly. So if you want to do this in your own companies, there's both getting the buy-in about ADG and design and figuring out what you want your products to look like and feel like, but you also have to enable your development team to be able to actually do this quickly. So they don't have to, they can't look at a document and go, okay, how do I make that button look like that? So we've made a whole library so they can just adopt these things very quickly. And the other tool we've built is what we call our Keynote rapid prototyping tool, which is, it takes all the design guidelines items, it puts it in a Keynote format. So product managers and even marketing teams can create high fidelity mock-ups directly in Keynote, and you can use some effecting tools in Keynote to do transitions. You can do animations. So without having to write any code, you can do some awesome mock-ups to get some feedback from customers really quickly. This is actually available on developer.atlassian.com. Both the design guidelines, AUI, and the Keynote file are there. If you want a copy, you want to do the same thing in your own company. It's there to share. For AUI, we actually have what we call the AUI sandbox, so the development team can go into the sandbox and again play around with creating components, adding some JavaScript, adding some HTML, and just very quickly prototype stuff. I talked about the Keynote file, which is really awesome. And from a cultural perspective, Ross and Jürgen and their teams have been really helping us put design everywhere on the walls, so that, again, we bring the customers in at the urinals and we bring the products as you walk down the halls. So you can't get away from the products. And I think it's kind of an important cultural thing to do as well, so that people on your teams, they look and they feel about what you're building together. So imagine, Confluence helps communication, and I think helping bring the products into people's faces just brings our customers a lot closer. And we've built these things, which are called design walls, and they're purposely designed to have kind of a bevel into the wall, so teams can congregate around the walls, and we put a little table there just small enough so you can put a laptop, and high enough so you can't sit down. So we've got a couple of these around the office that really helped kind of have a bit of more conversations about things. We've tried to remove some of the arguments, but there's always new things. So the OWI design guidelines and the OWI toolkit are contribution based, which means that there's teams within Atlassian who contribute to it. So if there's something missing, you can open a pull request and you can actually contribute back. So it has to stay live, and that's why we're very much against having a document that gets stale. So again, the design guides aren't allowed. In this case, like the add button, we're going through Jira going, crap, we don't have an add button in the design guidelines. What do we do? Let's get it in there, decide what it is, and then move on quickly. So there's Ross. Ross is, thanks Ross for the huge transformation in Jira. It's been amazing. And we had, what I think it was 61 developers on Jira as well, and those guys and gals have been doing a lot of work. And one of the biggest things we've done this year is the transformation from centrally version control systems to distributed version control systems like Git. And this has kind of been, again, from a development perspective, we're really keen on speed. And as the team has grown bigger to 61 developers, it's really broken down to a bunch of sub-teams, and we're all delivering into the same kind of code base at the end. So branching, which is a key to be able to do any feature-based development, is really, really hard in Subversion. I mean, almost impossible. It's merging hell. So, I mean, I see some laughter. So you can't track renames, you can't track moves. When you're coding, you're always afraid of, oh, how am I going to merge that back? And that's really one of the key benefits of DVCS, and one of the key reasons why we migrated the whole company off of Subversion onto Git and Mercurial, so we can actually scale our company and scale our teams to stay fast. There's a lot of merge fear, and Chris, who's been on the Jira team I think over 5 years now, talk to you a bit about what it's been like on the development side and moving to Git.
Jira moved to DVCS to take advantage of a lot of the options in branch geometry, I suppose. Multiple parallel development branches that can be merged at different times depending on the state of work in progress. It also allows us to, or encourages, fine-grained commit descriptions. It also lets us use things like signal branches, where we can trigger deployment into production from pushing to specific branches. Also, Git is hipster compliant.
Yeah. It's good when you interview developers. They're not afraid of any marketing spiel, so it's good. It is hipster. All our uni grads out of school are all Git compliant, and it's the first thing they use. So Jira switched to Git, and here are the gratuitous marketing slides. I'm actually going to go through them pretty quickly. It's just trying to say it's simple. I think the main thing to remember from this is what's really changed the culture on the Jira team is the Jira team ships to production every 2 weeks now. That used to be every 128 days before, and Git has been really one of the things that's powered that transformation. And delivering every 2 weeks means that you get into what we call feature-based mode, which is we have stories. So Brian talked about breaking things down into stories, and in each story we break them down into features, and every feature is something that provides some level of value to the customer. So for example, Kickass is broken down into a bunch of features. There's inline edit, there's quick search, there's redesign of the page, and there's something like, for example, in Kickass, we should be able to ship inline edit before we ship all of Kickass. So that feature-based development of thinking we can actually ship value without the whole release, Git's really helped us do that with branching. And the other thing we use is feature flags, which we don't actually talk about in the presentation, but it's helped us a lot. And what a feature flag is it lets you actually ship code to production that's turned off, and you can turn it on when it's ready. And what that means is code doesn't rot. So code, when it's in a branch too long, it rots, as in you have builds running and you don't know how out of date it gets. So feature flags lets us actually ship code earlier that we can turn on, and we can see how it runs in production. We can turn it on for a couple of customers only, and Git's been Git's powering us, I guess, to have that flexibility of both use branching and have feature flags at the same time. Now Stash, which I'm going to talk about, is our enterprise Git repository hosting product. And Stash is really meant to help all the enterprises who are moving to Git, who need a stable, integrated into LDAP, permissioning, workflow support for Git, where things like GitHub or some of the social coding products really don't think about the enterprise needs of customers. And the things we've done in Stash is think about flow. And part of flow is branching. So branching now is not all that much of a rocket science anymore. We call it issue branching, which means that when you have an issue to work on, you can branch automatically. You can run a build on that branch, and you can figure out how it's going, and you can merge it back really quickly. So a branch for every feature. In Bamboo, if the build fails, you know that you can't merge it back. So we've got awesome Bamboo integration and basically end-to-end integration. So you have an issue or a feature, you can have a feature branch. So you're working on that feature in that branch, and that's happening in Git automatically. You can have a build in Bamboo. So Bamboo is our continuous integration and deployment technology, basically an automation server. And Bamboo now has a lot of features that lets you actually run personal builds, or what we call branch builds. So you can actually have the same rigor of continuous integration on your feature branches as you go, and then you can have a lot more confidence as you merge those things back into master that you've had your continuous and your unit testing running on them. Again, just showing these in some visual pictures. So we talked about flow, so Stash helps with flow, and the other thing that we've been doing is implementing a lighter weight, more collaborative code review for Stash as well, and we call these pull requests. And pull requests are a very lightweight way of having code reviews in branches. And one of the, people will ask, well, why, how's that different than some of the other code review you've done before? Well, when you code review in branches, you can actually have a longer conversation with someone. So imagine when you're merging into master directly, it's hard to have kind of a code review and have changes accumulate to it. So we have a lot of kind of longer conversation on the branch, so we can recommit, have a conversation. And I don't know if we have a UI screenshot of this, but we've also highlighted the communication that happens in a code review. So we've brought the source files and you can have line by line commenting, but we've also brought the whole conversation into an activity tab. So you can easily see the actual conversation, almost like Confluence when you're commenting on a page, so you don't lose track of who's commented on what. So we brought kind of the team aspect into code review and then made it work really well with branching in Git. And that combined really helps with the flow. The other thing we like is workflow. So these are what we call merge conditions. So you can say, for example, as a project evolves in its life cycle, sometimes you're there's certain changes that need certain kind of reviews. So you can actually build that into Stash and say you need 2 reviewers for changes to get merged back in, or your build has to be green. So those workflow kind of activities get merged into Stash and can be supported. This is one of my favorite ones. Again, this is a picture of HipChat on the right, and it's showing basically code reviews being pushed into to your HipChat rune. So when a code review gets opened, there's an integration to Stash, it gets pushed, and someone can pick it up from your team. So again, just bridging that collaboration gap all over the place and making it really easy to collaborate with your team. And then at the end of all this, well, you get a lot more traceability. So once you have your issues and your builds set up, you can actually see builds in Stash on the pull requests. So as a reviewer, I can see, Penny's changes. I look at her code changes. I see, oh, a build's green. That raises my confidence level. Oh, someone else has reviewed it. That raises my confidence level. So we're bringing kind of those team collaborations into code review as well. So that's Chris. Let's move on to those, I think it was 4 QA folks, where there's a bit of a giggle about how can we have so little QA. And remember, it was 61 to 4. So how do we do that? Well, listen, it's been, our QA process at Atlassian has been a multi-year process. And we're really proud to have Penny tell you a bit more detail about this. But this was Jira about a couple of years ago, where it was very kind of waterfall-y, as in developers develop, you code, you release, and that takes 9 months. And as I said, this has to turn into 2 weeks. So how do you do that in 2 weeks with four QA engineers?
So before I started at Atlassian, I worked in a lot of companies where we had the same numbers of developers and testers. And so I'd built up this idea from that work that you needed to have a strict distinction between development work and testing work. And whenever you blurred that boundary, then you ended up with buggy software. I was a complete skeptic. I thought it was impossible to teach developers to think the same way that testers do. I thought they were two completely different skill sets, two completely different mindsets.
Do you guys have QA teams like that in your teams? Yeah. So again, we wanted to do better, and not just for fun, but we actually had some very real business requirements for why trying to fix both keeping the quality bar high and making sure that we could. We can keep releasing maybe at a quicker cadence, because 9 months is pretty long. In the internet scale of today, 9 months is too long. So what we had to do is decide, how do we leverage the rest of the team? How do we make sure that everybody's involved in QA, as Penny was talking about? And I think the key call there is renaming quality assurance to quality assistance. And it's a bit subtle. It's the same acronym, but it's a lot more of an enabling and a cultural kind of role at Atlassian than it is I'm going to test your feature end to end. And that's been the biggest transformation. So what does assistance mean? Well, it means showing developers how to write testing notes. And what a testing note is in your story, as part of your done criteria, write down how you're going to test it. So just get ready, think about your response for testing it. The other thing we do is we do pair testing, like pair coding. One interesting tidbit, if anybody was at Atlas Camp Europe last year, Penny actually spoke at Atlas Camp. She got a standing ovation after her talk, and she basically gave a talk about how to do testing and how she does testing. So security testing, SSR, testing for refresh bugs, and everybody was really interested to learn how to do testing. So developers really actually are keen, and when we pair up with developers in QA, they really want to learn. It's nobody sat beside them and said, hey, testing's part of your job, and here's how you can do it well. And let me give you some folks who have been, have really loved testing, and they're going to show you some tips and tricks. So that's been really working well for us. And what we call developer on test. So we have developers rotate onto kind of testing other people's stories. So that's kind of, in some ways, the quality assistance team is shepherding this process, making sure it works well, making sure we're training people correctly. And today, what does that give us? Well, that gives us a 2-week release cycle where everybody is responsible for QA. Well, I'll take questions at the end. There's a bunch of hands going up. We have a Q&A at the end. We use Bonfire quite a lot as well. So Bonfire lets us do collaborative testing. So there's some points in the development cycle where we want to get together as a gang and do what we call blitz testing. And Bonfire is, I don't know if you've tried it before, but it's a way of doing blitz testing and team testing together. So you can start a test suite, you can test, you see all the issues being opened during that test, you can take screenshots, annotate them. We use these quite often when we want to blitz test a story. And we open a HIP chat channel, we say, guys, we're blitz testing. We give everybody a test session name, their browser gets enabled with the Bonfire extension, and you can start creating issues directly from the Bonfire extension, take screen captures, and then we see kind of an audit trail in the test session of all the things that were found, and you got to get a good idea of how buggy or how good the feature was. You can create issues directly from Bonfire as well. And let's hear from Penny again about how this whole quality assistance team has actually worked out.
I love the process. I'm a complete convert. Originally, I never believed that it was possible for developers to be good testers, but now I've seen with my own eyes that they can and they are, and they do care about quality. And all they really needed was the right information at the right time to make that happen. Originally, many members of the Jira development team were very resistant to having QA. They saw that testing was already something that they did well, and they didn't understand why they had other people in there telling them what to do. Over time, we earned their trust, we proved to them our value in the team, and showed that there were skills that we could teach them. And these days, we love working with them and they love working with us. It's a really good partnership. I'm very proud of the quality of Jira. I think that we've got a fantastic product and a fantastic process to ship high-quality releases every 2 weeks.
We're lucky to have Penny on our team. I think she was a bit too humble there. She actually was a main driver of the process. It sounds like she was participating, but she's been an awesome champion. So there you have it. 4 people out of the 74 on Jira, and you can definitely see how bringing a product together really brings a lot of skills, and we've been really keen to power, I guess, all the teams around the world doing this. So hopefully this has been a bit informative to you, a bit of a sneak peek about how other teams might be doing this. So I guess tonight is go and find out if, I'm sure there's other teams in here who have better insight or better tips as well. I know there's a bunch of hands that were up. We're going to actually have a quick Q&A in about 5 minutes, so I'll be happy to take some of the questions. But first, it's a really short evening tonight. We have an awesome summit plan in the first week of October in San Francisco. It's going to be huge. We're going to be focusing a lot at Summit this year in terms of exchanging a lot more information about how you do things. So not only about the tools, but how do teams actually work together. So we're trying to get a whole track at Summit on that. So please sign up. It's actually, I think it should be live on our website as of now. Also, we have some experts here with us tonight, some platinum experts who've been supporting Atlassian and helping us helping us help you as well. So we've got Glintech, Catch, and Customware here tonight as well. They've got expert T-shirts. So go out if you're looking for some help. You're looking for some help implementing Atlassian products. Looking for some add-on development. These guys are here to help. We've got some other experts here as well. But you see the blue T-shirts with some small writing. That's them. So with that, I guess it was between me, Q&A, and getting to the bar. So thanks for giving us 50 minutes of your evening, and I'm gonna actually have 3 of the product managers come up, and I'm sure there's a bunch of burning questions. So we'll maybe just have a 10-minute Q&A, and then we can go have some food after that. So would I have Mairead, Sharif, and Jens come up? So these guys are seasoned PMs. Let me just see some tweet notes. Oh, some winners. Do you want to do the winners now? Why don't we do that while we got some good-looking folks coming up? So we've got the Tweet Charlie Prize. Stuart Ryan, you're the happy winner. Excellent. Woo! Thanks, Stuart. Cheers. My dream plugin. My dream plugin would be a global taxonomy changer for Jira, because not all users of Jira use it for building software. That's a good idea. So basically, you want to pimp your Jira with like ghetto talk or Canadian lingo. So that's awesome. Matt Sawyer, you're the happy winner. You can come up. You can come up later if you want. Congrats to Matt. And the survey winner, let's have Debbie come up and tell us what animal she thinks Atlassian is. Debbie, you win the last swag bag. Where's Debbie? So this is the $50 voucher for the swag store. Is Debbie here? Sorry, Debbie Brookfield. Thanks, Debbie. So what animal do you think Atlassian is, and why?
I think Atlassian's a spider, because it weaves its web to bring together lots of bits of information all together. So lots of sticky fingers everywhere.
Awesome. Got a spider. Thanks a lot. Okay, so I'll introduce our superstar PM team. We've got Sharif. So Sharif's Confluence PM. We have Mairead as well, who's kick-ass Jira PM. And Jens, who's our DevTools PM as well. So I think we have 2 mics. Let's open it up for some questions. Do you want to do the mic, or Verity? I know there's a couple of hands up when I was talking. So.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, just a quick one regarding HipChat. Maybe it's just me that's technology broken. Is it possible to, I know it goes to the HipChat chat room, but can it go from HipChat chat room back to, Confluence? Or is it a one-way directional? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, so at the moment it can't. Are you talking about just copying chat results onto Confluence pages, or?
Yeah, so I know it goes from Confluence to HipChat, but can it go the other way around?
Yeah, so the question's about just getting HipChat content and publishing that to Confluence. So actually we have a feature in our backlog that's looking at improving that and improving the copy, paste, and publish from HipChat into Confluence out. So at the moment, there's nothing out of the box that gives you that, but you can certainly do it by just highlighting text and doing that. But that's where it's at right now, yeah.
Hello. This is going to come across as a flame, but it's not meant in such a way. There was Jean-Michael, you asked what's the take-up of Confluence 5? And I didn't see a raging number of hands being raised. Why do you think that is?
I was in the bathroom, so I missed the hands thing. So, what was the take-up of? Who's actually used Confluence 5?
No, installed Confluence 5.
Oh, installed. All right, cool. Right, so maybe about a little bit less than half here. How many have installed Confluence 5 behind the firewall, so have not? Right, so 10, 15, right. The question was, why do we think we haven't seen a huge uptake?
It's free.
It's free. Yeah, yep. It's definitely free if you've paid your license. I think it really is it takes a while for people to upgrade, change management. So I certainly was a customer. I came from a large 7,000 person organization, and for me to upgrade Confluence required talking to IT, talking to management, getting some change process done. So not only is there the internal politics side, but there's also the change management side. So we had a lot of internal custom plugins, that kind of stuff, which we needed to upgrade before we'd upgrade Confluence. So we generally see the behind the firewall customers are sometimes anywhere from 6 to a couple of years behind what the latest version is. It varies depending on the size of the customer and the environment they're in.
So here's the flame now.
I knew it was coming.
Because we really, really want to use Blueprint. Except you frickin' changed your look and feel so much that the change management aspect is so massive. You make my life difficult, man. Thank you.
My mum would just not be proud of me right now hearing that. So I'd actually be really interested to hear your feedback. To be honest with you, the biggest change we've had in the Confluence's history was who here used to use Wiki Markup before Confluence 4, right? So the biggest change we've ever seen was the Confluence 3 to 4 jump. That was a change that I certainly learned a lot from it. We had some really good feedback, but huge challenges with change management, definitely. The 4 to 5 one, I'd love to talk to you about that.
It's the techie, so from what I understand before my time, the techie literate will be whinging about 3 to 4 before my time.
Yeah.
The techie illiterate are whinging about the 4 to 5, and they're harder to convince.
Right.
They're managers.
Yeah, so certainly Confluence 5 was about making the life easier for the non-techie users. So I'd love to talk to you about specifics about that. To be honest with you, I'll be quite frank. I haven't seen many negative issues at all about the Confluence 5. We've had actually great feedback. Yeah, the transition's been, I actually haven't even heard. If anyone's had challenges using the Confluence 5 transition, I'd love to talk to you afterwards and we can, yep.
This is a shared feeling from talking to another fellow Atlassian user. Both of us and both of our companies have basically, we work with other companies who also use your products. So we kept that issue where we go, well, are we in our Confluence or your Confluence? Are we in our Jira or your Jira? And what we really need is some kind of shared system or shared API between, common Jira tasks, common Jira pages, common projects, so that everybody's seeing what's happening and there's transparency in that when, if you want to know what happened, you don't have to kind of go, can I get permission to go back into your system to see what happened? That history and that transparency is so important in the products that when you lose it, it's, if you kind of shut out, it can be hard to answer those questions.
Sure. And so, like, do you guys have is it more a permission issue, or is it more like, hey, we just want to have one instance where everyone sort of talks to each other?
Okay, so I work for a company, and I'm a digital PM, and I have developers and freelancers, and that's great. But sometimes I engage another agency to contract on work and they use they've got their own cloud system of Atlassian, of the Atlassian suite, and it's that decision of, well, are we going to manage this project in our cloud system or in your cloud system? And it would be nice to kind of have a way of sharing that.
Okay. We have a remote issue copy, and so I don't know if that can help in this scenario. I know from talking to other customers, they actually they have everyone in on the one instance, and then they manage things more at the permission level in regards to what you have access to. I don't know if that could help you in this case, but we don't have any one designated feature, to sort of.
I think it's as more and more people take up the Atlassian products, which is a great thing, that we're going to hit this more and more. I had never hit this before until this last year. My friend here has had the same thing, and it's becoming that thing of going, well, where is it going to be? So, yeah, I'll pass this.
Just we've been having the same issue where I work. Possibly one thing that we were thinking, and obviously duplication of information is never necessarily something you want to do, but possibly having a synchronization feature, because we have a vendor in the US who we have to actually put tasks into there for, but we use Jira as well locally. Once their projects are finished, we lose access. We don't have access to it, and we lose access to all that information which we collaborated on. So possibly a way to easily synchronize a project would be beneficial.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you afterwards to get more details into it.
So in my day job I do architecture, in my night job I do development. So I've used a whole range of products. Now for me, I like Jira, like Confluence, like Fisheye. Other products, have you run out of ideas? I mean, because other stuff is, what's the next big thing? Do you have any sort of direction of what's going to be the next thing? Because those are really cool. Other stuff is, it's a sort of, I use GitHub, I use IRC, I use all these sort of things, and the other sort of products are more enterprise, if you like. So is there another sort of really cool product coming out?
This mic on? Yeah. So let me so the product name is, if I told you I'd have to kill you. But no, but the flip side, what do you think we should build? I mean,
that's not, sorry.
Is there anything, like, if you had a magic wand and you could get 10 people at Atlassian and build something for you, what would it be?
I'm trying to think of one of those to put on your survey. But I mean, a lot of things are covered, and maybe there is no new thing. So you sort of, you're still, because in the old days it was a lot of innovation and that sort of thing, whereas now it seems to be catching up with enterprise and getting people to take that, moving into the enterprise sort of thing. Refining, if you will. But I mean, I love all the products, but there's some of those that are really sort of out there, like the Fisheye, awesome, Jira, really good, Confluence, really good. Some of the other ones are a bit sort of, and I know obviously from people up there, we've got Confluence and Jira up there, so they're sort of the flagship things. Is there another sort of awesome thing coming along?
I think it was in the presentation earlier. Have you tried Stash?
I just use Git.
Yeah. So
I do use Bitbucket, but I use Git as well.
Yeah. So I guess Stash is when you're looking for the next bigger thing, and Git is going to become the next bigger thing. So for repository management and collaboration, the big thing is not really a new product, but how we integrate the existing products. So that's something that we're working on currently. Like, how can we optimize the workflow between the different products? How can we surface information from Stash or Fisheye in Jira? How can we create a report to tell the manager which features have made it on a certain branch or have been deployed in a certain environment, right?
I forgot Greenhopper.
Greenhopper as well, yeah. Yeah.
Hi. I really like the new look, and the new workflow editor has been awesome for us. It just simplifies the way we can dream up different workflows, which is part of what my question is, which is a bit more boring than that. It's around sort of licensing. We've gone from being a 350, 500 person organisation to a 3,000 person organisation, and we'll probably end up being a 20,000 person organisation. And we're licensing the products, that's not the issue, but we have certain divisions who've gone when they were small and bought plugins, and your plugins have got to be to the basis of the product. So for Confluence, we've got a Glyphy plugin for our designer people, and we've got ad hoc workflows for our customer experience people. But there's a dozen of those, but I've now got to go and fork out for 2,000 user license for those plugins as a result of upgrading my Confluence all of a sudden. Do you have a model in mind where you can come up with segregating Confluence based on the number of users where that add-on only appears to that level?
So this is a really popular feature request that we get from several customers, about decoupling the plugin pricing with the product pricing because of the value. It's really the optics of you want to make sure that, hey, I only have a certain number of subset of users. So we are definitely listening to you guys loud and clear. We're looking at revamping that. I don't know exactly when, but it is a very high priority request that we definitely hear you. We're listening to you. We're trying to look at the pricing scenarios and the correct licensing for you guys. So I'm the VP of Product Management. I didn't mention that earlier.
Hi. Oh, sorry. This is a Confluence question. I think I was one of the few people that liked Google Wave, the real-time collaboration aspect of that. Any plans to integrate some of that real-time into Confluence, editing of pages, etc.?
Yeah, we actually we're really keen for that internally as well. We know a lot of customers are keen for that. We had a couple of meetings only a couple of weeks ago, actually, looking at some alternative solutions to that. So we have huge challenges with Confluence in that, technical challenges, namely behind the firewall challenges, and also because our rich text editor and the concept of macros and a lot of those concepts that other editors out there don't have to deal with. We are thinking about it. We have a lot of smart brains put together in a room a couple of weeks ago trying to think about different techniques and ways we can solve that problem. I guess similar to the previous question, it is something we want to nail. Stay tuned. I can't give you any more than that.
I think we have one more question that we can answer. Is there anyone new that has way back there? All right.
Yeah, hi. I work with remote workers only. There's no humans in the same room together. So I need Skype, HipChat, and FlowDoc to do our work. Is there any way you could bring FlowDoc functionality into HipChat, or basically the one-to-one collaboration only is a problem in that I need Skype to do my group chat, to do the video, and so on. So FlowDoc is popular for me. It also involves sort of RSS feeds and stuff that Confluence and Atlassian product doesn't have in there. Yeah. So I'm Frankensteining my life away with all of these things.
So primarily after FlowDoc and HipChat integration, the primary thing?
So FlowDoc has integrations into your products, and unfortunately it doesn't have some of the capabilities of HipChat. So I find myself using all three for different things, and it's a Frankenstein sort of thing, which I'm not happy about.
So I think the answer is yes, we will take over the world with HipChat. But I mean, you can see a lot of the mechanisms are there. So HipChat is really, we can put a lot of things into HipChat. Like you saw Bamboo build. So FlowDoc's really an aggregator and helps you do a lot of that aggregation. HipChat's an awesome platform for doing that. And we're looking at video and taking out, making HipChat the center of the world as well. So it's definitely on our radar.
Okay. Please hurry up.
We are. I missed that. Tagging in HipChat. Besides tagging people, I haven't heard about that one come up. Not yet. Open feature requests. So we've got food and a lot of people who probably want to chat to each other. So thanks a lot for your time, guys, and yeah, thanks for closing our road trip. Whoa! Hang on. Get food and the bars in the back, and
They'll circulate.
go. Okay.